I think there are several factors that encourage patients to donate samples. Data is a slightly separate issue, but if we run them both together, I think probably they come down to the three things we already know from research about why patients participate in research. Number one, we want to benefit other patients in the future. That's always the prime driver, altruism. Number two is actually the hope that somebody might discover something that helps us. That might perhaps be more of a far-reached hope if you have a life-threatening illness than if you have something that you're going to have for 20, 30, 40 years. But in this day and age, that latter one is actually quite a realistic hope because the speed of science is moving so quickly. I think the third reason too is the thought at the back of our minds that if we help contribute to research in this way, if we provide samples, if we provide data, it does actually help train doctors and researchers in how to do research. It helps the research community. No one would ever put it like that, but I think the thought is at the back of our minds, it helps the health service somehow in some way. Having donated samples or data to help research, the prime expectation that patients have is that it will be used, and that it will be used for medical or wider forms of health, social care research, which are actually going to benefit other patients. That's why we gave it, and that's what we want it used for. I remember growing up as a kid with all horror stories in the 60s and 70s of parts being stored on jam jars in distant shelves somewhere, and my mum being a nurse. And she and I were both horrified for different reasons. She was horrified that doctors had taken those samples without telling anyone. I was horrified that things had been done for the sake of research to actually benefit the human race, or me as a young kid growing up as an adult to help me when I got sick, and nobody had done anything with them. One of the things that really upsets me even today, working as a patient advocate in health research, is when I hear about these sample collections that have been taken with the best possible intentions years ago and haven't been used in donkey's years, and people forgetting that they even exist. That's a waste of contributions from people like me. If we make a donation, please use it. There are many discussions going on all over the place about what informed consent really is, what information patients need and how they need it. I suspect, as any teacher knows, especially in a primary school, you have to find different ways of giving information to different people in the right way at the right time for that individual to understand. So there is no one size fits all, there is no one style fits everyone. Some of us like papers that we can take home and read at leisure. Some of us like DVDs. Some of us like going online and doing interactive activities. So that there are all sorts of different ways. I don't think there is a right and wrong answer to that one. There are certain templates which have been designed by patients to explain things, and that's always a way forward. If patients have helped design it, that's a step forward. Personally, for donating data and for donating tissue especially, I would actually move away from consent if we could. I'd actually move towards instruction. I would actually have a sheet of paper or some other format, a DVD or online, whatever it is, where we patients, having made a donation, instruct people on how it should be used for ethically approved medical research, not consenting to someone else coming along and finding it and doing something with it, but actually telling them, I've made this donation to benefit humanity. You lot out there, you're working to benefit humanity. Use my legacy. Use my donation. One of the other challenges we do face is that there are different views held by different patients, and there are different views held by different patients about academic research, about commercial research, about chronic conditions and about acute conditions. Is it threatening your life, or is it threatening your quality of life? And there are differences. There are also huge cultural differences. There are national differences across Europe. Without wishing to make a political statement, it always surprises me that patient groups across Europe ever agree on anything, never mind the national governments. So there is a real challenge there on trying to find agreement. Coming back to academic and commercial, though, I think there's increasing blurring. We live in the United Kingdom now, where commercial activity in the health service is actually routine. Whether you call it privatisation or not, any patient that has a sample taken for diagnosis probably will find that that sample goes off to a private laboratory, a commercial laboratory, because that's how path services are run now. We will, if we have cancer, sooner or later we will probably have some part of our cancer pathway that comes across a commercial aspect to it. Clinical trials can be run in the NHS, but they are testing one drug against another drug. Some drug company is eventually going to make a profit out of that, because that's a commercial product. So I think there is a blurring of the edge. The key to me is not about academic or commercial. It is making sure that it is legitimate, ethically approved medical research. And the concern that we patients have, therefore, is not about academic or commercial as such. It's about who else is going to get hold of the data. It's about who else might be trying things out with our tissue that we don't know about, and what controls are put in place to stop that, whether it's academics or commercial. That's the key. It's what's it being used for and who is using it. And the additional tricky point on top of all of that is this issue of actually, once we donate tissue samples, once we donate data, we actually have no clear idea what lines of research will be coming up in 5, 10 or 15 years' time. We've only just started to explore the human genome, genetic predispositions to certain conditions. We've only just really got into molecular pathways at the level of the human cell. And we are only getting into things like long-term survivorship in diseases that used to kill people pretty quickly. So there are whole new aspects coming out. We don't know what technology will bring in terms of how we can actually keep the human body going physically. We don't know what technology will do in terms of how we scan it, diagnose things. So we don't know what the research will be in 10 years. And how do we actually say, well, that piece of research is going to have medical or health research benefits, if we don't know what we're looking for? We're just doing a fishing expedition with large pools of data. So there is that issue there of how do you protect patients and our perfectly legitimate concerns from that. I've just raised the question. I've got no answer. I don't know. So I think one approach to that particular issue about patients not really knowing what research is going to be in 10 years' time, and indeed researchers not knowing, is if there could be some sort of line of sight on the consent form, or better still, on the instruction form that patients give to researchers about just where it's likely to go, the kind of things that is likely to come up. Most patients these days are aware of the possibilities of genetic research, even if we don't understand the details. We are aware that all sorts of robot devices can now be implanted in the human body to do fabulous things. And if we're not aware of the reality, we've certainly seen it in science fiction, and we know that reality catches up with science fiction quite quickly. So if there could just be this research may include, this research is likely to involve. No one can ever hold anybody to that, but it would be nice to know the kind of things. But always with that reassurance, when this research does happen, it will be ethically approved, it will be controlled by whatever regulators are in place at the time. I mean, that's something else we can't guarantee. Who regulates what? Over and above some of the things I've suggested already, the biggest single change I would like to see in this area about using patient tissue and using patient data is actually giving patients more say in who gets access to the tissue and the data and what for. There are some excellent examples already available in the 100,000 Genome Project, for example, run by Genomics England in the UK. You have patients, not just patients, actually participants, people whose genomes have been sequenced. They sit on the Data Access Review Committee. So the people whose data and whose genomes are going to be used for research actually get to see who's doing it, what they want to do with it, and, if necessary, they get the chance to say no. Usually, of course, they say yes because they can see what the purposes are and who's doing it and the fact that it's all legitimate, ethically approved, controlled, whatever. But actually, just giving some patient representatives, put them on committees. Now, I actually don't know how many academic tissue research collections have already got patients sitting on their review or release committees. I suspect it's very few. One of the other things I'd like to see is to try to resolve this problem of people not knowing about tissue collections, but also not knowing about the data around it. So what was the patient suffering from? What treatment had they had? How was the data collected? How's the tissue collected? How's it been stored? That kind of stuff. So I would actually like to see far more comprehensive registers or catalogues of who's got all this stuff, and actually someone somewhere, and it would probably be a commercial entity, acting actually as a dating agency, some sort of tying up scheme of helping people put in touch. Because that comes back to why we patients donate the stuff. It's actually so that it can be used to benefit humanity. So let's get on and do it a bit more quickly.